This stage of the video, we're looking at clocking up the cam to give us a correct displacement of 4mm. So we've checked to see that this new center point is lined up with the tip of the revolving center, and now we're going to work on the dial gauge, clocking it in position. So what we have to do here now is I'm going to identify the bottom dead center and the top dead center. So on the low side, that line we make going across, that's the bottom, B for bottom, and the opposite side to that is the top. That's the top. And what that's going to be is when we're making our part, our project, so the bottom is going to be where the hole is, the screw is going to go in, and the top is up here. So as the top of the cam reaches that point, the valve will lift up. As it reaches the bottom of the cam on the opposite side, it'll be sitting in flush. So to set this up with our dial gauge, you're going to wind in now. So you bring in your dial gauge, it's in the magnetic, and you position it in a way that it's just touching center point on the cam, and I'm making sure that the clock is reading 0 to start. Then you're winding in and applying a 1mm contact, so that's 1mm in the clock face. So as the plunger touches here on this side of the cam, it's making a 1mm contact, and then you're checking this then to see, make sure we got the correct displacement. So as it's rotating around, it's giving us what the displacement is as it rotates, and as it rotates around to the top point, what I want to see is 5 appear inside. So at 4.8, 4.9, and look at that, 4.95. I think we can safely say we have that displacement correct on position there. So we see it falls between 1 at bottom dead center up to top dead center, and in the clock face hitting our 5. So we see our 5 happening inside, and then it goes falls back down again to 1, which is the bottom dead center, which is at B, and then back again when the line rotates around, it's back up to the top of it. So that's correct. We set up. So I can remove that out of the way. We no longer need that. Now, we're going to start by machining. And how we're going to do this is we're going to machine one side of the cam. And what we have to do here on our drawing wise is create a diameter of 16 and the length from here to here to be 11. The cam itself, if you look back at the cam and the dimensions on the cam, on the part, the finished length is 32. And it's 11, 10, 11. 11, 10, 11. So that's what we're trying to make from it. So the stage we're going to do here is we're going to turn down this side on the forejaw, creating this diameter here to 16 and the length from here to here to 11. So let's get started on that. We're going to adjust our speed here to 540 RPM, and we're ready to start. Again, check your tool height is okay on center. I've done that before I started, so the tool height is set up. Now, it's vital at the start, before we start machining, make sure that the part is set up properly. That you set the X. So as it's rotating around, you're going to machine one side of the cam more than you're machining the other. So it does look a bit unstable when you look at it for the very first time. Because it's spinning, we're creating a new center. So when you're starting the tool off the first time, making sure you're touching the tool off the highest point on the cam, the top of the cam. So set the tool height to the top of the cam, press X at 0. Then go back to the end and touch the tool off the end, set your Z to 0. So you're touching the tool off the highest point on the cam, X to 0, and you've set the Z. So now part laid on, it's starting to look like it's going to spin completely off center, it's on a new center. So what we're going to do then is small cuts. We're going to take on 1mm of a cut, and you're machining in this way, in on the Z. At 540 RPM. I'm just going to stop the lathe to show you what's happening. So if we look what's happening, we're just machining one side of the cam at the moment. It's only taking material off one side of the piece at the moment. It's only taking material off on one side. So the speed here is at 540 RPM. And now we're ready to start going. So again, just stopping shy of the 11. I'm going to go about 10.5, 10.8. Okay, and get that on our finish cut. So adjusting in there, about a millimeter at a time, nice and slowly, turning that bar down. So you can hold off on trying to take a measurement with your verniers till you're about 8 millimeters taken off each other. But you're only machining one side of the cam, so it's so as you can see there, we're only machining on one side of the cam at the moment. All set. Now, continue on. You can use the automatic feed here, so pressing the lever in, and you're just machining it down along, and you're concentrating on that side. You don't want to go past 11. So stop shy of it, 10, and manually go in the last bit. Just stopping shy of the 11 every time for the last push. So keep working your way in. It is 25, we have to go down as far as 16. As I said, you can see we're only still machining one side. We haven't actually machined the bottom side of that cam yet. So keep on going. As I stop the lathe now to have a look, we can see now we're machining after 8 millimeters taken off, we're machining both sides. So 0dx, enter, 2 is touching the part, and let's take a measurement to see how much we've got actually left to take off. So take out your vernier calipers, measure your part. Mine's currently measuring 20.13, so I've got 4.13 to come off. 4.13 to get down to 16. So when I see 4.13 up there now, I'm going to be at the diameter because we can see, clearly can see that it's machined all the way around the part. Only measured the diameter when you can see it's turned all the way around that cam. There's no point in measuring. So until you've got 8 millimeters taken off, that's when the point to start at measuring. 8, 8, 9. So now I've got 4.13 to come off. I'm going to take off 1.5 of that. Apply the coolants. So I'm leaving the coolant off for video purposes, but you can apply the coolant on when you're starting the machine. I'll just try and put a piece on. It might make it a bit more difficult to see with the coolant on. So if it's okay, apply the coolant onto the tool. Just for video purposes, I might just leave the coolant off. So we're going to adjust it again. Again, 4.13 is my final cut. I'm machining on that. But you want some coolant in there just to keep that part nice and secure. Okay. And at any stage you're not too sure, if you wanted to recheck your measurements, it's okay to do that. what you could do here at this point is if you had failed to take a measurement, what we could do here is as the tool is touching the part, you can always recheck the tool is touching. You can recheck your X 0. So I could recheck to see what my diameter is. If at any stage you want, but always good when the tool is touching it to do it. So I'm just going to check again. 11.89, so 1.89 to come off that, and we're bang on our 16. I'm just double checking now my measurements. Yeah, 11.9, 17.9, so 1.9 to come off it. So as we start machining now, I'm going to make that cut of 1.89, and that gives me down to 16. So now it'll be 16 after this cut. So machining on. This is the final cut to make me 16. I'm going to manually machine in the last bit to give me my perfect. I have my 16, and now let's get the length from the end of the cam to 11. Perfect. So I have 11. I've taken off my 1.9 from my last measurement. So that leaves me with the diameter of that cam now at this point here to be 16. So that's the stage you want to be leaving. The first stage of it done is where you've created this diameter 16 and the length from here into there to be the first shoulder to be 16 meters, is 11 meters in length. That's great. So now what we'll do is we're now finished with the 4-jaw chuck. So at this stage then another student can come in and continue on in your place. So what you do is you just need to open just these 2 points, the 2 jaws which are able to open, and pop your part out at that stage. Only take it out when you've ensured that it's at 16 and you've created your length at that time. So that's perfectly done. So we can see our 16, 15.96 and our 16 is perfectly on it. 15.99. So that's our done at that stage done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to machine the opposite side of this cam in a 3-jaw chuck. So we're going to catch this side in the 3-jaw. So the next stage of this video is we're going to look at replace the 4-jaw out with a 3-jaw. So it's going to pause the video for this stage and I'll change out the chucks. Okay, so we've removed the 4-jaw chuck and I'm popping back in the 3-jaw chuck back into position. So popping it back in. As I said, member of staff will help you remove the chuck. Please don't do it by yourself. It's going to be quite heavy. So I'm just tightening that chuck up. And this is the 3-jaw self-centering chuck. So now, separate chuck keys. That was the original one for the 4-jaw. Now we're using back this chuck key. So we take our cam, which looks like this now, and we're going to do now is machine the opposite side of the cam to get it down to its finished shape, looking like so. So we're going to machine the opposite side. So by holding it on this, it automatically spins on its new center. So you grip your cam in position, making sure it's caught between all of the jaws. It's really important to make sure that the cam is caught between all of the jaws correctly. So you're checking that it's correctly caught between those 3 jaws. Again, don't put your speed above 540 RPM. Don't put your speed above 540. And the next step now is we're going to concentrate on getting the 10, the length from here out to be 10. Then we're going to concentrate on getting our length, final length to be 32. So that's 11. So we have 11, 10, 11. So I'm going to concentrate now on getting the diameter here, the length here to be 10. And we're not going to machine this diameter, just the length to be 10. So we're going to concentrate on getting this 10. And then we're going to get the full length, the final finished length of 32 by getting the opposite side. So to do that, 10, I'm going to create a shoulder that I can measure with my vernier calipers. So let me start doing that part for you now. So 540 RPM. So just touch the tool off the end of the piece. 0 your Z. Touch the tool again. We're touching on the high side of the cam. So as it rotates around, we're definitely hitting on the high side. So when you rotate the chuck, you should see a gap when it's on the bottom side, and when it's on the high side, it's just touching. So you don't want to touch the tool off the bottom side because it could pick off too much material at once. So it's touching the high side, perfect. So we have the 0 on the X correctly, touching the high side. Now, back to the end. And what we want to do here is, as a guide, it's always good, sometimes as a guide, take your vernier calipers, and just as a guide, I'd like you to make a little mark on the part at 10 millimeters, just shy of 10 millimeters. So make a little mark there at 10. So as it's rotating round, you'll see that mark rotating as a guide. So you can see that that mark is clearly shown there. We've created. That's our shoulder to be 10 millimeters. So we're going to try and create this shoulder here now to be 10. So we're going to machine this section here on the pan. So we're adjusting in by 1 mil, and you're machining in here. Just machining into the close enough to that point for us to use our vernier calipers. Bit of lift. Little edge of attach the vernier. That's fine. Create an edge. And back out again and adjust in another 2 mil. That's 3 mil coming off. You can see the little black mark, so we're not close to the 10. So now we stop at this point. What we want to do here is we stop the lathe. So now what we've done is we've created this little lip. You can see the 10 mark is there. Take your vernier calipers out. And now what I want you to try and do is make sure you zero your vernier calipers. And you catch between the jaws of the verniers. So we can see the distance left between the jaws is 13.53, 13.54. So we've got 13. That's now 13.54. And what we want to do now is zero our Z. The tool is touching at that point, it's reading Z. We can see exactly where we have in our verniers what we've left to come off. So we have to remove here 3.53, and that will make us exactly 10. So when we start machining there your 3.53. Making your shoulder perfectly 10. Perfect. So now you press Z to 0. So now our length of our shoulder is exactly 10. That's now created our 10. 9.999. That's close to 10. 10. So we have our 10 created, and now what we're going to do now is we're going to get the length get our 11 length. So that's our 0 point, and now we're going to work back and find out then what's the full length of our part. We can see then the tool touches the end, we're at 13.65. This has to be 11. So we're going to make small spacing off the part, not do it as one, but we're just going to bring down this to 11 by increments of half millimeter at a time. So just literally skim across, small steps at a time, just reducing down, and a bit of coolant on as we're machining. So you just start reducing down the length of the can until you see 11 appear here in your Z. And that gives us 11, 10, 11. As we start to lose the weight, it starts to look a lot more stable in the truck. So I'm machining in here and I'm watching this number at 12.5, and I'm reducing that down until it gets to 11. About half millimeter cuts is totally enough. Is enough to take on. Getting close to it now, 11.4. 11.29. So I've got 0.29 to come off. This will be my final cut, or our final cut. Oh, there we go. That's 11. Final cut. So now when I stop the lead, we stop the lead. What we've done here successfully now is we have our first 11 done, diameter 16. We have our diameter 10 created, and we have our full length, finished length that's at 11. So we have 11, 10, 11, and now we're going to concentrate on getting this diameter here to 16. That's our plan next. So with our length done, we're now going to concentrate on getting the diameter here to 16. So powering back on lathe. We don't want to go past the 0 because that's going to reduce down our 10 shoulder. So we're watching that because the 0 doesn't go down on the Z. And we're just reducing down the shoulder now. Repeating the procedure of the opposite side. So again, when X is about 8, you can start to take a measurement of the part. At the moment, it's only machining on one side. But please be very careful. Don't go past the 0, so stop and shy of that. Just that's close enough to the 0, because otherwise you reduce down the shoulder. If we stop, we can see still we're only machining on one side. We haven't machined the bottom side of the cam, and it won't start machining the bottom side until you've taken off about 8 millimeters off its diameter. So we're going to start machining. So back out to the end again, and you're adjusting in about 2 mil. Again, you're watching the Z. Don't go past the 0. Just manually stop one and finish it. Automatic stop. Just back out again to the end and back in. So at this point now, you can, as it's cutting, now you can hit X, 0 and enter. 2 is touching the work. I'm going to measure the diameter and see what you've left to come off it. Get it down. But it's starting to look a lot more like the cam now. And getting closer to our finish shape, or geometry. So, I want to take a measurement now. We can clearly see, only measure when you can clearly see that it's cut both sides, the top and bottom. At this point now, you take a measurement and see what is the diameter. So as you're measuring it, matching between the jaws, and it's currently measuring 20.37. 20.37. So 20.37, so we can see on that, we have got 4.37 come off. So when we're at 0, and it's at 0, because that's when I zeroed it before we stopped that time. So I need to take off on this 4.37. So I'm going to take off 2 mil of a cut now. Just shy of 2 mil. That's 2 mil of a cut coming off it. So I'll give us now to 18.37. And we're manually finishing the last set of the beds. Back out. Final cut. I'm adjusting in now to my 4.37. But it may vary for yours according to how you start measuring it. So at this point, the diameter will be 16, and we'll be happy to finish. And we're constantly getting there. So now, our diameter is, just to give it a diameter of 16, and we're concentrating on here now getting our 11 shoulder correctly. I'm going to manually finish off the last bit. It's always good just to manually go in there, getting close to zero. There we go, close enough. So now that's giving our perfect shoulder and machining back out the way away from the centre. So lovely, perfect. We've done what we're supposed to do. The first section we did on the forejaw, diameter 16, 11 long. We replaced it out, put in the 3-jaw chuck, concentrated on getting the diameter 10 shoulder. Then we created the length correct to diameter 11, so 11, 11. And then we created this there now, getting this diameter here to 16. So now we've got a symmetrical part, and that's the first stage. I'm moving on now till we drill the hole. The last stage now is we're going to drill the hole. Drilling the hole through the part is a diameter 10 hole going through, and that matches up to a diameter 8 hole going through to match up the diameter 8 on the handle. So that's what we're going to drill for now. We're going to drill the hole through the carving. I'm going to pause that, Andy.